we're here today to talk about real estate.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlimited podcast. My name's Sarah Steinmetz.
I'm Brian Schuby.
I'm Carrie Steele.
Bill Jones.
And we're the Jones Home Team.
Well, welcome back into episode 7 today. We're talking about some fun ones here. So we're talking about questions you should ask a real estate agent and common agent and new agent mistakes. And again, we're kind of be a little bit lighthearted with it, trying not to poke too much fun at anybody because we all started somewhere. None of us came into this pros, except Brian, maybe.
That's a fact.
Tried with that. So, all right. So, very first topic, we're going to questions to ask real estate agents before you hire them. So, there's been a lot of discussions ever since, as you guys all know, August 17th was a big change in the real estate industry, what we can do as far as showing a house and the requirements made with that. And we've had a lot of questions about from clients, do you have to stick with that agent then? What does that look like? And I think before you get to that should be probably should you ask a lot of questions before you're asking that question? Like, so had you asked 5-10 questions, which we're going to go through some of these, you maybe wouldn't have to be worrying about getting rid of that agent, firing that agent. So we'll go through this. And this is whether you're buying or selling a property. So I'll go through, like HomeLight had a list, Dave Ramsey had a list. Somebody else, I think Rocket had one that was not to be outdone, 25 questions. So I think they were just grasping at straws to come up with their 25, whoever's writing that article. But it's, so we use Chat GPT to kind of narrow this down, and we'll go through these 10, which AI determined was the most important out of a lot of different websites. So if you guys are working with an agent, how long have you been a full-time real estate agent in the market? So part of it would be experience in your specific market is crucial to handling local trends and nuances effectively. So I feel that that's a pretty important one. When we talked before we went on, I don't know that it matters if you've been in the business 6 months or 20 years.
Right.
You know,
because some people might have a lot more experience in their time. So somebody might have been doing it for 20 years, but they worked another job, so they only sold one house, every 6 months or a year, or even every couple of years.
Right.
Versus somebody who comes in swinging and that's their full time, go-getter job, and they've sold 12 houses in 6 months. So, while that other person might have 20 years of experience, how much experience do they have locally and recently, and so on and so forth?
Which is also a really scary question when you are the person that's only been doing it a few months.
Yeah, I've been here 6 months.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, that's kind of embarrassing to say. But in reality, you might be working harder than a good percentage of the agents that are actively licensed.
All right. Depends how much you've thrown yourself into the industry then. So, and this kind of leads right into that. How many? I think this is more important. How many homes have you closed in the past year?
Oh, closed.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Not just shown, listed, whatever, how many of you close. The reason they give for that, it gives insight into how active and successful the agent is, helping you gauge their ability to deliver results. So, yeah, I think if you're hiring somebody, I've sold one home or
how many buyers and sellers have you worked with? 326.
Right.
How many homes have you sold?
Actually sold
or closed, yeah.
Which, again, going to your points here, if you have sold a lot of homes, that's great. But if you're just getting started, it's hard to, like Brian, your first year, you did well, but the first month in, you didn't
you're not going to be closing very many then.
Yeah. Did you have somebody ask you when you first started? Did they ask how long you've been a real estate agent?
I can't recall. It's been obviously 7 years here, but I'm sure I was asked that question quite a bit. Yeah. I didn't have the beard back then.
No, but it's nerve wracking.
Yeah, I got asked my age a lot when I first started, probably because I looked like I was 12 and they were a little confused when I pulled up, but that was like the worst to try and be like, oh, I'm 19. Like, who's going to buy a house
I'm allowed to drive.
19-year-old?
Yeah. I have a driver's license. This one here, again, going back to the August 17th thing, what's your commission and is it negotiable? So, yeah, I think it's always negotiable. It's always been negotiable. So I think that just kind of depends on, even on the buy side now too, figuring out what that looks like up front. And that's the big part too, I think, with those questions we're getting is agents being unresponsive, not knowing what the commission rate's going to be, or just not finding people what they want. So, yeah, commission's always been negotiable, but again, it's one of those, I feel like you get what you pay for too.
Right, and they don't even somebody would sooner ask, how much do you charge? Then what do you do? Because I remember when I first started interviewing you, when you were selling our house,
Right.
You had all the tools and all the tricks and all the things. And I don't even think that I thought to ask how much you charged, because I wanted to know all of the things that you did, because
Right.
you were way far, advanced in terms of what you offered from a
Sure.
brokerage standpoint. So I'm surprised that more people go straight to that and don't ask, what can you do for me, versus how
Right.
much do you charge?
Yep.
I mean, I think we even see that kind of to Carrie's point a lot, even, in office, as far
Oh,
as
sure.
the tools and stuff that we have, as far as the box truck and the Matterport camera, your drone pilot. So I think there's a lot of things that we offer that a lot of offices don't. However, I think that we get bypassed a lot too, or don't even get at least the opportunity to show that.
Yeah, because a lot of people think an agent's an agent. It doesn't matter who you hire, you're getting the same service. So then in the absence of, perceived value, then it's price. So, if they don't see the value there.
Right.
And that's where we, I think do a good job. Like to your point, Brian, we offer a lot of things that only big city companies usually offer then in our little town. So
Or have to outsource or pay for or bring somebody else
right.
in.
Yeah.
We
but
do it
just
all in-house.
have it in-house and make
Yeah.
that available to our clients then. So yeah, it's always negotiable, but again, I really do think you get what you pay for. So, what is your experience in homes in my neighborhood or my price range? So I think that's another one then too, to where, our area, we kind of work with everybody, whether, all price points for homes, farm ground, commercial property. Like we're in a small enough market, it's hard to kind of really specialize, but I think that would be apt to where, if somebody calls and says, hey, I've got a 100-acre farm to sell, do you have any experience with that? If I've got a condo to sell, I think that does kind of play in. But I think bigger cities, that would be, if you're in, like we were down in Columbus this weekend, you got those certain south end of Columbus versus north end of Columbus, I'm sure is a totally different market. So yeah, you'd want to know you're hiring somebody. How will you market? We just talked about this. How will you market my home and help me stand out when buying or selling? So kind of the same thing, to where if you're offering it in different light or different perspective, are you just going to put a sign in the yard and call it good? Or are you going to wait for me as a buyer to send you Zillow links of homes? Carrie, you do a fantastic job. We've had a few people that have looked for unicorn properties, and you're calling people, you're knocking on doors, you're sending letters out. So I think that makes a big difference between a normal agent and a good agent, or one that excels at their job, that's really getting out there.
Not to mention everything else. We have a full marketing sheet of
Right.
the drone, the Matterport, the this, the that, all the MLS
Sure.
information and stuff like that we take everywhere we go, so that you can see right there in one sheet what we're doing, outside of all of the extra efforts that maybe your clients don't even see.
They don't even see it. Yeah.
Right.
We know as an office what we do and what we're doing behind, closed doors. So that makes us, I guess, stand out from the rest.
Sure. Sounds like we're patting ourselves on the back a lot here then. But we do. We're 4 good agents. We do a good
We
job for
work
our
really
people.
hard.
Right,
Our
yeah.
office works really hard. And from all of our text messages and Slack group things, it's all the time. It's 24 hours a day. It's 7 days a week.
Yeah.
We see something, or we, see something innovative, or we see something we think the whole team should benefit from.
Right.
And we're talking about it and we're sharing it. And so it is. Real estate's on our mind 24/7. Whether we want it to be or not,
Right,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, and I'll say to that point too, it was kind of culture shock when I first started, because I was like, oh my gosh, it really does never stop. I knew
Yeah.
that,
Right.
but there's so much that goes into it, and so many ideas that flow, especially with all of our group chats and stuff like that. And we have different designations for each one depending on what category that idea falls into or whatever. And then it just keeps us thinking all the time. It kind of keeps you in the mindset of it,
And I
which
feel
is
like-
huge.
I feel like if you do step back for a week or 2 weeks, then you get in your own head that you're so far out of it and you're so far removed that you're like, oh, I have to get back in,
Yeah. It's
because
like
it
going to
is
the gym.
constant. Yeah.
And I don't know, that's just chatter. That's stuff that ultimately helps our clients then too.
Yeah.
A home that's popping up on the market, or if we have a question about something that usually will help with them. So this one applicable to us, we're on a team here. So while I'll be working directly with you or a team, so I think that's good to, I guess, have some clarity. If we don't have any big mega teams in our market, but I know some markets there's 30, 40 agents on there. Who are you actually working with? I think we do a good job of, we work together as a team, but we also work with our clients, almost individually then too, to where sometimes it's just you talking to that person, and other times it's one or all of us kind of stepping in there. So I think just setting the expectations seems to help with that. But again, not to go too, we could have a whole episode on team, but I think it makes it good for your client then too, to where it's not just one person. One person can't be available 24/7. So yeah, Brian, congratulations! Just got married, so he's out and about for a week, doing whatever he's doing, and didn't need a whole lot of help with things, but he had a team to lean on, and his clients didn't suffer because he had a team to work with then. So, can you provide I love this one. Can you provide references from past clients? I don't get asked this a whole lot. I don't know if people do their own homework, but
I was going to say, I feel like a lot of people do their own homework, or
Right.
look at Google reviews or Zillow reviews.
Oh, that's a good point.
Or whatever reviews that you have out there.
Yeah, and you do a good job. I think you probably have more reviews on Google than any of us in the office at this point. So that probably your testimonials and reviews speak for themselves. They don't have to call and say, hey, Brian, tell me about 2 or 3 people. They do their own homework. So, yeah, I like that. How do you handle negotiations? I lean on this one a lot. Like when I'm talking at any marketing group, I'm doing something like that. I pride myself on been doing this. The old man again. I've been doing this a long time. I've been part of a ton of deals myself as a broker. So I feel like I'm a pretty good negotiator, and I can work through a lot of situations. Again, to like your point earlier, Carrie, a lot of that stuff doesn't make it on your marketing list, like the extra work that you do. So it's hard to put negotiation on as it's an intangible thing. It's not like you can see our moving truck. You can't see your negotiation,
Right.
Sitting there. But I think that makes a big difference. Okay, what do you see potential pitfalls in my situation? So a good agent will anticipate challenges and help you avoid costly mistakes. That's what HomeLight says. So what do you see as potential pitfalls in my situation? Guess I'm thinking with that could be a house that might have some challenges to get through,
Yep.
or specific home that would need special care, or some explanation. Buyers.
I think one of those too. I mean, just as an example, like septic systems, especially in our area and stuff. Every county is different as far as what they look for or what they require as far as septic systems. So
Yep.
a good agent will obviously be very well known as far as what's needed for that particular.
Are you
county.
well known in septic
Yes.
systems?
He's a septic master. That's we jokingly said Brian needs to get a job at the county health department because I think he knows more about.
Because he knows his
Yeah. He knows more about septic than those guys there at this point. Just picking on you guys. Don't fail our systems. But yeah, I think that makes a huge. Every time we do a country property or anything with a septic system,
Yeah.
that's the kind of what's a septic look like? Because a buyer usually doesn't know until there's
and
an issue
that's
with
a
that.
costly thing. So
Oh, yeah.
going into it knowing that there could be an issue, or representing your buyer and understanding what that could look like on their end, should the seller not, move forward financially with it, that's something really good to know.
Right. So knowing from a buyer standpoint, from a seller standpoint, what could happen, and being honest, I think with your people then too. If they're looking for a unicorn property, then I think you just need to tell them, like, everybody's looking for. I mean, how many? We've all talked about this. I want a country ranch for this much money, this much acres.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody and their brother in our market is looking for that. So yeah, they're there, but you're going to be fighting 10
Everyone
or 15
for
people
them, yeah.
for them with that. This one gets a little deep in the weeds, but what's your list to price ratio? I don't think most people even know what that means without having this handy dandy list, but this measures how close the sales price is to the listing price. A higher ratio for sellers and a lower one for buyers can indicate strong pricing strategies. So I guess would be on the buy side, can you get somebody a good deal? On the list side, are you going to get them what you not promised them, but the pricing that you've talked about? But that plays into a lot of that then too. I think just being upfront with people, being honest with them. We talk about agents all the time buying a listing. They just give them the highest price there is and hope to get that. We run into that, like in the Findlay market, we've run into that how many times to where it doesn't seem to happen too much here. It does, but
just happened to be in the Findlay market last month.
right,
So,
yeah. Where you go to there and it's just like
And
what?
you too.
Yeah, any agent that gives you the highest price, you're hired.
Yeah.
Which completely negates everything we just talked about.
Right.
What, how good a negotiator are they? What are they going to do to market
Yeah.
your home? Are they going to be honest with you? I'm going to say probably not if they're just telling you whatever number you want to hear.
And then the property sits on the
I
market
was just
for
gonna
3
say
months.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
When
does-
it could have gone really quick if it would
And
have
with
been
multiple
a
offers,
justifiable
probably.
price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And how many times we see that where we feel like they would get less money, and
Yeah.
the stats show that too. If you overprice something 10, 15, 20%, whatever the case may be, you're just people are going to wait for the price to drop. And then had they priced it right to start with, you wouldn't be running into that. So yeah, get an agent that's willing to be honest with you and do that. I don't know if you guys have any other, I couldn't think of any, there's a bunch of questions on here, but some of them just got kind of like, the writer said, hey, I'm going to come up with a list of 25, and they were struggling to come up with more than that. But I think you can we'll reference all this below, depending upon where you're watching us. I'll put all these articles in so you can come up with your own list. But do you guys get interviewed much? You know, I feel like every listing is kind of an interview. Very few times is it a slam dunk. You know, they're usually getting some of that. But on the buy side, I don't feel like people usually ask questions.
Right.
I feel like we almost just tell them what we're going to do or try to set the expectations. I feel like it'd be good for people to do more of that, to ask questions and actually do some interviewing. It's the biggest purchase most people make in their entire life. So why wouldn't you ask some questions, or you just pick the first person that picks up the phone, I guess. So.
Yeah, I feel like I get most interviewed when it's a referral out of town or something like
Sure.
that. And that's another agent that already knows what questions to ask then.
Right.
As compared to clients actually asking you before hiring you.
That is good. Yeah, I guess referral agency, they do. You know, how many,
As they should.
Yeah, do you work in this market?
Yeah.
You're trying to find a good fit for your client you're referring to, right? Okay, so this one, again, would just kind of want to be fun to move on to the next topic here. 10 mistakes new real estate agents make that annoy experienced agents. And we're not so much worried about us agents, like, well, we can take it. But how does that affect your client in the end, too? Is it annoying to us? Sure, but is it going to hurt the deal? And we've all been part of that then, too, to where an agent isn't doing their job, so it makes the whole deal hard then. So poor communication, and we're all guilty of this at sometimes then, but new agents often use text or, and forget to actually pick up the phone and call a lot of times. Frustrates the agents, especially when a phone call had been more appropriate. So I think communication is great with your clients. It's good for the deal to happen. I think we all rely on text and email quite a bit, but sometimes we all know it's good just to pick up the phone and, work through something that's hard. I think it just goes to negotiation.
I think a lot of agents just don't want to have to go over something that's a hard conversation to have. They just would, hey, I'm going to send a quick text and
hopefully it goes away.
Yeah, hopefully it goes away.
Right.
Hey, your septic failed. Yeah, that's a tough one. I feel like we do a pretty good job with this, but lack of training, inexperienced agents who skip office meetings or neglect learning can end up costing extra work for the experienced agent. And for the whole deal then too. So I think, again, if you don't know what you're doing, if you've never done a septic system, I don't know why I keep going into that, but it's hard. It's a lot to get through. How many times?
Yeah, I just had that with a property. Septic system failed. The agent was from out of town and a bigger city, never had done a septic system. And I pretty much had to walk him through the whole process and ultimately do both sides in order to get the deal done. But that was needed to get the deal closed. So.
Yeah, I think we all do a pretty good job with that. Do what it needs, whatever it takes to get the job done then, we're working for that. And as your agent should. So I'm not trying to just have the pitch show of us, our team or anything like that, but make sure you're hiring agents, I feel like that do a job like we do. So lack of awareness, not knowing what they don't know. So you don't know what you don't know. New agents sometimes fail to ask questions or seek help, leading to mistakes that could have been avoided. So whether that be just from ignorance, they don't know what to ask, or they're scared to ask. They don't want to seem like they don't know what they're doing. But I feel like that's a big one then too. Just if you don't know what you don't know, it's not a bad. You don't want to do, like we just talked about. You don't want to do the whole deal or put it in the other agent's lap. But if you don't know how to get through it, I mean, you got to get there somehow. Etiquette issues. I don't know if we've run into a whole lot of. I guess there is a lot of real estate etiquette probably between agents, but I just don't think about it so much. But yeah. So leaving lights on after the showing or not locking up a property, careless behavior during property viewings upsets both the seller and an experienced agent and your buyers, I guess any of that kind of stuff. So, I guess think of things like that. It's terrible when you get a seller that calls you and says, my house was, I've been gone for 2 days. My house has been unlocked and all the lights were on and the bathroom, the water was running upstairs. So that makes it hard to, that's just, again, maybe carelessness or lack of knowledge of what you should be doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like if there is ever an issue or anything of that sort when you're showing a house, a quick text or call to the listing agent, just like, hey, the door in the back, I couldn't get it to lock. There was an issue with the knob, whatever. And then they can let the seller know right away. Or if the seller's out of town, the agent can go figure it out, whatnot. Anything like that, just let them know.
Right.
Like, they're not going to crucify you for it. Just let them know.
Or they shouldn't. You're being helpful.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you couldn't get the door to lock, you couldn't get the door to lock. Obviously, that's pretty important, though, especially if they're living there. So you got to let somebody know. Just stuff like that.
Yep, I've had garage door open, left open. Yeah, basement door. That's a big one, too. If it has a walkout basement, sometimes people leave that stuff unlocked, and they don't discover that for a week later that happens. So Failure to provide feedback. And I think we talked about that in last episode, which, could be good or bad. I think that it made me think a lot more too, is are you doing your buyer or seller the justice by leaving feedback? But many new agents don't leave feedback after a showing. While feedback is debated, like I'm just talking about, it's still seen as a professional courtesy to respond, even with basic comments, which I think, Sarah, you mentioned that too. Usually just give something, maybe not too deep in the weeds with it, but carelessness with documents. We need Tara on for this one here. That's our admin. So talking of carelessness with documents, that's our biggest pet peeve. Missing signatures or required disclosures can cause legal headaches. Experienced agents often end up cleaning up these errors, which I agree with that then too, to where some agents, they don't have the disclosures anywhere and you got to track them down, or something specific to the property. Again, we'll keep talking about septics, like the operations and maintenance agreement, something like that. Is that in place? So I don't even know what that is.
HOA information. That
Oh,
one
yeah.
drives me crazy.
That's a
Like,
huge one.
You literally are in an HOA and there's nothing about it anywhere.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No fees, no numbers, no addendums, nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And you call that agent and they act like they don't. Oh, yeah. I better
Oh,
look
yeah.
into that. Yeah. Had that client interviewed that agent to start with, you probably wouldn't be running into that, where you have other agents, chasing their tail then. So,
Right.
All right. So that one's for you, Tara. Not taking ownership. I didn't know what this one meant at first here, but new agents sometimes fail to deeply understand the properties they are selling. Experienced agents expect them to know the neighborhood, amenities, and details that the buyers will ask about. So we've talked about this property a couple times, one we've had for a bit. Very unique home, a big, beautiful Victorian house, but there's a lot to it. People have a lot of questions. So I think knowing where it sits, knowing what's going on with the property makes a big difference. So it'll put your seller in a better position anyways, and too.
And if you don't know, you better figure it out quick.
Right, yeah. And we can't know everything about every property. You're not going to know.
Sometimes you get really random questions that
Yeah.
you wouldn't
yeah.
have thought
Yeah.
about anyways.
Right.
So you do have to do a little bit of digging, but for the most part, you should have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
I always think back to that one. Is it an insurance commercial where the guy's flipping the switch? They're like, honey, what's the switch go to? And I don't know. And the neighbor's garage door slamming on the car. Yeah, so you don't always know. Rudy bought his house out on River Road. There's still a light switch. There's two of them. He has no idea where it goes to then too. No idea. I'm like, do they hook? He's like, they're hooked up to something. I don't know what, but we called the seller. They I don't know. We never messed with them. So, that's been years ago
Nice.
at this point. So, poor buyer vetting. This one drives me crazy as well. So new agents sometimes fail to screen buyers, leading to wasted time on clients who aren't serious. They also misjudge which properties are a good fit for their buyer. And
That's probably number one, I
Yeah,
would think. If
yeah.
I had to look at this whole list, I would say both my past experience and current experience, that's number one.
Which
Yeah.
I think kind of helped with the buyer agency
agree.
agreements. I think that kind of
Right.
weeds out a lot of those people who aren't actually serious in purchasing a home.
like we lovingly call the tire kickers.
Yeah.
Making
Yeah.
sure that they're going back to the first question. Are you pre-approved? Do you have have you talked to a bank? Do you have cash? When you say cash, is it actually cash? Are you able to buy? You might be willing to buy a house, but are you able to buy a house?
Yep.
Is a big one. So, and yeah, that's so frustrating. You get through a deal, get it under contract, start ordering inspections. The lender gets a hold of it, and 2 weeks later, they're like, "Yeah, this is going nowhere." Had they, the buyer's agent done a good job double checking a lot of that shouldn't be an issue then. So, not again. This is going to the interview side of it too. Not admitting when they don't know something. So it's better to ask questions than to pretend you know everything, which we all know with some of them. New agents often try to bluff through, which can cause serious issues later. So I guess you don't know if if you don't know, you don't know. And there's always that cliche expression, fake it till you make it. I don't think you should fake knowing
Where a septic is located,
Yeah.
or where the well is, or where, because I had one that had multiple wells everywhere, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I literally had to call and say, I'm going to take a picture and I want you to show me exactly, and then we're going to draw lines where it's at because I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with not knowing. We can't know, like the earlier question, get to know the house, that's fine. But we can't know I don't know everything about the house I live in.
Exactly, right.
So let alone the 20 houses we're representing, it's hard to say we're going to know everything, but we will find out. We're not going to just BS an answer and say, oh yeah, it's this. And then that buyer goes through the whole purchase thinking, well, Carrie told me it was whatever, yeah, well, let's try to find out. So. This one drives me crazy as well. Failing to manage expectations. So new agents may overpromise to clients, leading to disappointment and complications when things don't go as planned. So I think, managing expectations, or maybe just setting expectations, it works on both sides, buy side, sell side. So on the buyer side, they're looking for that unicorn property we're just talking about. Oh, sure. Well, no problem. We'll find it in 2 weeks. You're just trying to get them to sign a buyer rep agreement. Right. Same thing from the seller side. Not being honest with them with pricing or the condition of the house, I think makes a huge difference. So I think just setting expectations. I mean, you and I've talked about this, with a buyer, you just got to be honest with them. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you looking for? Yeah, there's 20 people looking for that house. And same thing with the seller. I think just being upfront and honest with them.
Or I'm renting for $550 and I'd like to buy this
yeah.
$180,000 house and get it for $550 a month or something like that.
Right. Transparency is key, especially with new clients, just so all of the expectations are set from the jump, and then nobody's pissed because something didn't work out or things aren't moving as quickly. And also, like, kind of going back to like no updates and stuff like that. Just keeping everyone in the loop, even like if things aren't moving as quick as you hoped, or it's taking a little bit longer, there's an issue, this, that, or the other. Just communication throughout the whole process is huge for everyone's happiness in the in the transaction.
I love the no update. And I guess my rule of thumb, and I know I've told you guys all this then too, whenever I'm thinking about a client or a deal or whatever, if it even pops into my head, they're sitting at home staring at their phone like, why haven't they've been up all night talking about it. Why? What is this issue? It doesn't matter what, an inspection, an appraisal, or whatever. So if you're even thinking about it as an agent, you find that
better.
Yeah.
Better reach out.
Yeah, you better do something. And the no update is great. We haven't heard anything back on the appraisal yet. Oh, thank God. I was so worried about it. I didn't know,
that's why it's
I figured something was wrong.
That's why it's awesome to have another agent that, knows what they're doing or experienced on the other end, because I've done deals with people where they are a new agent or they're an out of area agent and the communication isn't there, versus somebody who, I'm just picking on Brian over here because we had a recent deal, but like just the communication is like bop, 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 bop. And that you can do so much more for your buyer or seller if the agent on the other end is responsive as well.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
not just going from our standpoint, but from the other end as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference for sure then. So we had another article. We'll kind of skip this one for now here. 17 things every new agent needs to hear in their career. There were some fun ones with this. Maybe we'll pick that up in episode 8 then, but there was a lot to dig into there. Some of it was, I love this one. Working with the public is dangerous.
It can be.
Sometimes.
We'll save that one for next time here maybe. But I had a fun article here. Thought of you, Sierra, when I saw this one. Addicted to love and being under contract. I thought this was a funny article here. So we've all had clients who can't commit or waste their time. And again, this is coming from, I'll back up a second. This website is for real estate agents. So it'd be some fun insight here. If you want to get the mind of a real estate agent and kind of the inner workings, and some of it's in good fun. But yeah, you can check out this website. We'll link it below. So it's not supposed to necessarily be client facing or public facing, so it'll sound it from that perspective. So we've all had clients who cannot commit or waste their time, but this is a real estate story from Reddit. An agent had a client go under contract multiple times, which we've all had that, but she would back out right after the home inspection each and every time. While it's not unheard of for a buyer to be turned off by a list of repairs, it was starting to become a problem. The agent stuck with it, hoping it would turn into a commission check. That's the real estate side of it here then too. Plus it was a referral from a great client, so you don't want to make that person mad. It turns out that the client wasn't shopping for a house at all. She was shopping for a husband. She had a huge crush. On the home inspector, and would go under contract on a house just to have the excuse to see him. The agent had to fire her when she started calling the inspector at night. The worst part is that the agent assured us that, well, it goes on to some more here then too, but it was,
oh my gosh.
So yeah, apparently this person was in love with the home inspector and couldn't wait to order new home inspection. Right,
yeah. But at that point, why not just say, hey, can you introduce me? Like, why go through all that?
And that would be an expensive.
I was going to say that's a very obnoxious way to meet somebody.
Yeah, I think so too.
And stressful too.
Yeah, you can't help what you know in your heart.
The heart wants what the heart wants, right? Is that
I'll
how that
stop at nothing.
goes? Yeah. So that was a fun one here too. There was a couple others, but that was the one that just stuck out to me as well. Then that was fun. We'll link that one below so you can read some of these funny ones. And again, don't hold that against us. We didn't write them. They're just funny articles that us agents can share with each other. So, our little trivia question. This one will be for you guys, and I got one for the audience. So what percentage of home buyers start their home search online before contacting a real estate agent? What
Like all of them.
what percentage of home buyers start their home search online before contacting a real estate agent?
83%.
That is right where I was going to be.
Yeah.
Say 86.
Okay, fine. I'll go with 84.
All right. Well, you should have stuck with your first gut. Almost all of them. About 97% start online, which again, too, going back to what we talked earlier with, getting a good buyer's agent. I don't think you want to get an agent that's just going to wait for you to go find things online. I know people, that's where they start their search, but they shouldn't end their search. Like we talked previous episodes, the secret websites and Zillow and realtor.com, they're great. There's a lot of information there, but so you agents out there, we already kind of know that a lot of people start online, whether that be realtor.com, Facebook pages, that doesn't
Gets
matter.
the ideas flowing.
I don't
Yeah.
know about you guys, but when I get something in my head, whether it's I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, I want to take a vacation, that's all that occupies my mind until I finalize whatever that is. So if somebody's looking for a house, you better believe they're going to check every website, every real estate agent, every marketplace. They're looking everywhere for that right house. So y'all must have
and
to be
even
on top
just
of it.
to see if there is anything that they want out there, if that's even a possibility too. It's kind of like online shopping.
It's a lot like online shopping.
But there's no reviews on that house though. You can't
True.
look at the 500
Yeah,
reviews
true.
from Google. That might be.
Oh, don't
there's
give-
an
no,
idea.
I was
There's an idea. I just thought of it. Yeah, let's review homes then. That would be fun. But so question for the audience, and this could be for you guys here then too. So what percentage of homes sold in the U.S. in 2023 were sold utilizing a real estate agent? So all the homes sold in 2023, what percentage had the real estate agent help get the deal done? What do you think?
Like, is this
So-
are we
so-
including like foreclosures and all that stuff? or
Everything. It just says all of
everything?
2023 residential real estate.
geez, that's hard.
How many?
I think it's lower than I want it to be,
Yeah.
only because there's weird things like foreclosures, and I sold to my uncle and those kinds of things. So I'm gonna,
Well, the hint was it's well above half.
I was gonna say I'm gonna
Well
come in
above
low.
half?
Well above
Well
half.
above.
Well above
I mean,
half.
I was gonna come in around like mid 60s, like 65,
Yeah.
only because I think it would be like closer to 80 or 90 if it weren't including all of the other weird things that could drag those numbers down, like foreclosures or auctions. So
I'll say 71. I think
All
that's a
right.
little high, but
yeah, I'll say 68.
I'll say 80.
All right. Well, we'll have to tune in next week here to find out. So,
suspense.
yeah, the suspense is going to kill
Bum, bum.
everybody.
We need
So,
suspense music.
but we want to hear from you guys here. We want to know what you want to hear from us. We try to do a good job to keep up with what's happening in the industry and what's currently happening. But do you guys got any specific topics, guests? We'll have a couple more guests come in here shortly as well. But we'll discuss whatever you want. And if you guys need a real estate agent, we got 4 fantastic real estate agents anywhere in the state of Ohio. If you're looking outside of Ohio, like we talked earlier, we can vet out other agents and other markets for you, find you a good agent, and we'll do the interview process for you if need be with that. So we don't sell ourselves enough, I guess, then. But we love to help, love to have a conversation. If you have questions about real estate, or if you get anybody that's thinking about getting into the real estate industry or with another brokerage, we got a great team. We got a lot of good stuff to learn, and come check us out. So we'll wrap it up there, but we'll be back next week for episode 8 and some more fun stuff, and we'll get the trivia question answered for you. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you guys soon.